Hi, my name's Matt. I'd like to welcome you to this Zinniac video on the Business Analysis Management Practice. This is part of our Drive Stakeholder Value ITIL 4 training course. Let's start off by looking at the purpose of business analysis, which is to analyse a part or the entirety of a business, define its needs and recommend solutions to address these needs and/or solve a business problem. The solutions must facilitate value creation for the stakeholders. Business analysis enables an organisation to communicate its needs in a meaningful way and express the rationale for change. This practice enables an organisation to design and describe solutions that enable value creation in alignment with the organisation's objectives. So straight away there we can see value mentioned several times, that as ever our focus is on delivering value to the customer, to the users, that co-creation of value with the customer, the consumer organisation. It includes assessing the requirements in all 4 dimensions of service management. And just a point to make on that, for all the management practices, it's always all 4 dimensions of service management. So maybe not every video says it, but just assume that for every management practice we want to consider them across all 4 dimensions, so people, technology, products and services. Digitally enabled organisations require greater attention to understand strategic imperatives, customer and user experience, because the customer and user experience can be much more varied. It can be that, as we've seen, that omni-channel experience for the customer, where in maybe traditional organisations they come into our shop or our single physical point of interaction and they interact with us there, whereas in digitally enabled organisations they might be phoning us up, they might be chatting with us, emailing us, interacting with us on social media, maybe using our app on their mobile phone, maybe physically meeting people as well. So that omni-channel view makes things much more complicated, so we require greater attention to detail to understand that. And to understand the use of data and technology, particularly if we're using machine learning or artificial intelligence, reimagining business processes. So yeah, absolutely, we want to use this technology that's available to us to do things more efficiently, more effectively, in new ways that are better, provide better experiences and better outcomes and greater value for the customer, and embracing digital business architecture. And the final point, so in an agile context, and I mentioned this in the last video, many organizations, the business analysis is conducted by someone whose role title or job title isn't business analyst but analyst, but maybe is product owner or service owner. And certainly product owner is very common, and I've run many courses, Scrum product owner courses, where an organisation has asked me to basically turn all their business analysts into Scrum product owners, because they're moving to Agile, they're moving to Scrum, and they're changing their role titles. And as I said before, the key thing is authority. So if you are doing that, if you are using product owners, they must have the authority to make prioritization decisions on behalf of the organisation with relation to their product, or if they're a service owner, with relation to their service. So we're going to look at the 2 success factors, of which there are 2, and we've seen this before, which is really, one is definition and one is delivery. So in terms of defining business analysis, the success factor is establishing and continually improving an organisation-wide approach to business analysis to ensure that it is conducted in a consistent and effective manner. And again, that is very similar to the success factors we have seen for many other management practices, that we want a consistent organisation wide way of doing it. And the reason for that is a fundamental basis for improvement, that we're all doing it in one way. We can assess how well it's going, and then we can try different ways to try and improve it and make that assessment. If we're all doing it in different ways, there's too many moving parts, and it's very difficult to improve. A consistent approach might include several models for different contexts, though. Yeah, so it doesn't mean you've got one way of doing everything, and you do software and hardware in the same way, because they make different contexts made different models. So you can still have that consistent approach, but with flexibility built in. We need to understand the internal and external environments. That's critical. Business analysts utilize multiple models, including gathering information, providing stakeholders with information to fulfill their roles, identifying business needs, and translating them into well-articulated requirements. And that's really the key thing, that they're well-articulated, and by well-articulated, that it provides requirements that the developers can take and come up with innovative solutions that deliver maximum value. One example I quite like is the example from around 1970, when the chief exec of Sony went to his developers, went to his engineers and said, I fly around the world quite a lot on aeroplanes. I quite like listening to classical music. Can you develop me a device that enables me to listen to classical music on an aeroplane? That was his requirement. Their solution delivery was ultimately the Sony Walkman. But that requirement, because of the way he specified that requirement and left it wide open, it was initially fulfilled by a tape, a Sony Walkman that played tapes, one tape at a time, that was superseded by the CD Walkman that played CDs. And then you had the mini disc Walkman, and then obviously more recently we had iPod Mini, mobile phones providing the same functionality. And in fact now, if you're like me, I don't store any music on my mobile phone. When I want to listen to music, I just stream it over the internet using Spotify. Other music streaming services are available. But the requirement hasn't changed. The requirement, I want to listen to music, right? The chief exec like classical music, I like heavy metal, maybe you like jazz, or who knows. But the requirement's the same, yeah. So that's a well-articulated requirement, when you can, over time, the requirement doesn't change, but the solutions get better. Assessing the actual solution's performance and value, and recommending further improvements. So that's the first success factor. And then the delivery success factor is ensuring that current and future needs of the organisation and its customers are understood, analysed and supported with timely, efficient and effective solution proposals. So this is actually doing business analysis, actually delivering the value. It's an important step in the value stream from ideas to value creation. The recipients must be able to act on the results, current and future states, and steps needed to realise the proposal. So we might not be able to get from current state to end state or ideal state in one step. We may go through several steps. And I talked about going from Sony Walkman playing a tape player to mobile phone streaming data, and there's several steps along the way. And at the beginning, I'm sure in 1970, even the chief exec of Sony had no vision of the world as it is in 2020, as I record this video. Business analysis provides input for two main parties: customers looking for solutions that fulfill their needs, so the customer knows, they can see that their needs have been understood, and service provider teams who design, develop and deliver these solutions. Stakeholders require assurance that their needs have been understood and guidance on available options and associated benefits, costs, and risks. And that guidance on options is really important. Just something that I've personally gone through very recently. So last week I was away in the Lake District. It was raining very heavily, as it often does. Where do the lakes come from? They come from the rain. And I do have a waterproof jacket. It is waterproof, but it's kind of a summer, spring waterproof. It's not really up to all-day torrential rain. So I was looking at getting a new jacket, and I went into a store and was discussing with the provider there different solutions and getting that guidance. And I was asking them about different waterproof technologies, basically. So my current jacket is waterproof, but it's 10,000 hydrostatic head, and he was talking about different solutions. So he was saying, well, this solution is about 18,000 and this solution is 20,000, but if you want the top 28,000, then you need to go for this particular solution that you'll all be familiar with, the market leader, certainly for breathable waterproofness, 28,000 at hydrostatic head. And then obviously you go, all right, so I'm going to go for that, that's fine. But then there's a range of costs from about £200 up to £500-600. So what's the difference there? Okay, well, some of it's just who manufactures it, but it's largely those warranty things of durability. So the lower cost ones have the same level of waterproofness, but they're not as durable. The material's thinner. Generally, the more expensive ones are a thicker material, so they'll be more durable, they cost more. But again, you lose a bit of flexibility, so you have to decide where your requirements are. But that's what you get into in terms of understanding the different options and the different benefits. So spend some more money, make it a bit more waterproof, spend some money, make it a bit more durable. But what's more important to you? Do you want it light and but more durables, not quite so lightweight. So how important is lightweight to you? How important is breathability to you, and so on. So it's understanding all those different options. Verify stakeholders have understood the information and will offer their support anytime it is needed. And that's key. So, in terms of testing, maybe the solution, providing that feedback I talked about with minimum viable product, when we were talking about minimum viable product, how important it is to get that feedback. So obviously that takes time and input from the customer. Often when organisations move to more agile ways of working, they underestimate the amount of customer user time involved in having that interaction if they're not prepared for that. So it can cause conflict. So it's important to make sure, if you are going to move to a more iterative, incremental, agile way of working, that it requires a lot of customer input. The benefit to the customer is they should get a better, more accurate, more value creating solution at the end, but it does, there is a cost there for them. Service provider teams require functional and non-functional requirements. I've just talked about that. Functional waterproofness, non-functional durability. Functional breathability, non-functional weight, for instance. It is also important to understand the emotional context. So we do have an emotional context, just to stick with the same example. So waterproof coat, yes, I want it to be waterproof, I want it to be breathable, I want to be able to afford it. All right, I'm just using it when I'm walking up mountains, but I don't want it to look rubbish. I do want to kind of look at it. I want it to be a colour that I find appealing, and I want the fit to be flattering to me. So there is a bit of emotional, that perception within the value, and that goes for IT as well. And what actually one of the biggest problems I've had in IT, certainly in service management, is working with organisations that update technology piecemeal. And what you end up with is some user, gets a brand new laptop and they're sat next to somebody who's got a 5-year-old laptop that's creaking. And the guy, whoever's got the new laptop, I've got a new laptop, it's great. But the other person's like, I haven't, mine's rubbish. And, they're almost trying to break, throwing it around trying to drop it, and maybe not so much with laptops. Certainly I've seen that with mobile phones. People with old mobile phones kind of throwing them at the wall. Oh, my mobile phone's broken. What a shame. I'll need a new one. So you need to be careful about that emotional context and how people react. Okay, so that was our video on the business analysis management practice. I hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. Please join me in the next video. Well, we'll be looking at more driving stakeholder value. Until you see me again, have a great day.